HCSS Field Mobile 4.0, otherwise known as HeavyJob Mobile. Let's get started. We had a monster release. This is one of the largest releases we've ever done. We were here talking to y'all in December when we went over as sort of a pre-release rundown of all the new features, but now that they've already all been basically completed, at least what we're releasing, and it's in the App Store today, we're going to run through them again one more time. Agenda is we're going to talk about the new release. Redesign of the home screen, new Timecard reviews, signatures. We got new features and production planner, needs request, phone inspections, pay adjustments, maintenance requests. We got that one too. Can access skills from within the Timecard. We have speed improvements in terms of you no longer get the spinning wheel of boredom. And then there's also something we're calling HeavyJob 1. And I'm going here. Alrighty. So this is the iPad app we've come to know and love. It's changed, as you can probably see. So this is the new home screen that we're going with. Previously, it was a list of items, as I'm sure you're all well aware. So all it was a list of items. You couldn't reorganize those. You couldn't do anything else with them. It was what you see is what you get that was turned on for that particular user. We're moving toward a more workflow-based model for the home screen in that now you're going to have, the foreman's going to have the stuff they do every day that's part of their daily workflow there at the top. For instance, right now, I got my diary, my photos, and my time card there at the top. Now, for instance, if I happen to do a safety meeting first thing every day, so I have safety turned on for my foreman, they're just going to be able to move that right up there, and that's going to be the first thing they do during the day. They don't do safety if they haven't turned on safety meetings, and they really should, let's be honest. Safety is job one. They should be doing that, but let's say they don't have that, so it's not going to be up there. They're doing diary, photos, time card. We're also going to start talking about production planner soon, and so that should be up there. End of the day, planning for tomorrow, planning for next week. So this is fully customizable, so you can move things around here. You can move things down here. I can continue to move down and check out all the cool stuff that we have. I'm actually going to put that back into my field entry box there. Also at the top, we're making very clear what date, job, and foreman are currently active for the iPad. So date is March 1st today. I can click on there and select a different date. If I need to look at tomorrow for some reason, I click on the date, and now it goes to March 2nd today. We have date, job, foreman at the top. I'm going to go back to today so we can take a look what's going on there. If you'll notice, if I click on diary, and I'm going to just hit my From GPS, enter something real quick, and hit the send button, it sends it, and it checks it off. I've completed my diary for today. So what we're trying to do there is have the foreman know at the end of the day that everything he needs to do has been checked off down the line, left to right, and then he can move on to head home and then come back the next day and start over again. So for things that you'd only send one of those each day, like diaries and time cards, they're going to have a check mark when they're done. If you've created them but not sent them, you'll notice what the time card says underneath it. We have an unsent time card there. We've created it, we just haven't sent it yet. And so it alerts the foreman to that possibility as well. For photos and stuff like safety inspections where there could be multiple in one day, and I love doing this because it just see if they're paying attention. Hey, Gabe. I send that, and you'll notice photos will start counting up. All right, so that is the new home screen. Let's talk about a couple of other things related to this. There are two views with the home screen. This is the primary workflow view, which is the one the foreman's going to get. The other view that they're going to get is the standard list view. So if they prefer a list view and scrolling to get to everything that you've turned on for them, then this is the view that they're going to get. Now with this, you can still rearrange your items and move them up and down. And you still get the nice check marks, you get the nice notifications about what's been unsent, what has been sent. So that's still available to them in a list view if that's what they prefer. I'm going to go back to workflow view, which is really where we think that they're going to want to live. Cool. So the other thing on here, you'll notice at the top right, actually, let me talk about something else first. So when your foremen get this app, and it is in the App Store today. It is in the App Store today. So we hit the button about an hour ago, and it generally takes between 30 minutes and an hour for Apple to process everything and make it available in the App Store. So you should start to see it fairly soon, but it should trickle through to all of the App Stores, through to all of the Apple App Store databases this morning. But that'll start coming out. When the foreman first enters the app, they're going to get a pop-up, and it's going to say, we've changed some things. The home screen, basically. This is a change for them. Now, it should be fairly easy to figure out, but we're going to make it easy for them. And I apologize, because I've already gone into the app and prepared data for the webinar, I can't show this to you. It only pops up the first time they're in the App Store. But what happens is basically a yellow Post-it note pops up on the screen and says, we made some changes, we're going to walk you through them right now. And then you click Next, and it pops up a pop-up and says, this is your new workflow view. If you'd like to change this to list view, click this button, and they can click that button. They can also exit this yellow pop-up run-through at any point. It is only 4 Post-it notes, basically, so it should take about 15 seconds for them to get through. If it takes any longer than that, they can definitely hit the exit button on there, and they will never see it again. But what it does is it walks them through the fact that they can switch between workflow mode and list mode, and it also explains how to move the icons back and forth. So that is the prep that they're going to get when they enter the app. Cool. The other thing that we can talk about down here below is you'll notice there's an orange bar that says 4 pending transactions. We've had this issue in the past, is that foreman goes to the diary, hits the send button, goes to the time card, hits the send button. They think they're done and they've sent it. But what can happen is if he doesn't have an internet connection, that time card's not going anywhere. We can't get the time card off the device without an internet connection, and sometimes, depending on where you're working, that can be a little bit hard to come by. So instead, what goes on is it just sits there until he gets an internet connection. But there's no way for him to know, because it appears as sent. You know, the diary will show as checked off. It's sent according to the foreman. However, it's still sitting there as a pending transaction in the transmission queue. Previously, you had to go into Settings and go to Transmission Queue here, down below, just to be able to access this. We don't want the foreman to have to do that anymore. So instead, he's going to get that orange bar. That bar is going to basically count down any pending transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple more photos real quick. And you're going to have to watch this quite closely. So I'm going to hit Send. Notice at the top, at the bottom there, where it says 9 pending transactions. We're going to start watching that. 8, so 7, 6. The photos are leaving the device and being sent in. Should end up at 4, which is where I'm at right now. This was during our testing phase, and these were not able to go up. So I left them actually sitting in there. We didn't fix them just so that I could show you what it looks like when there's a transaction that they've sent. The foreman thinks they've sent, but never actually made it to you in the office. What it looks like for the foreman. So this is a great new tool. The last thing in the world we want to do is have the foreman send a time card and then it not appear where it should be. They've done everything they can. They've hit the send button, but we want to let them know with that big orange bar at the bottom that something didn't make it to the office. From now on, you no longer have to sit there and watch the spinning wheel on the home screen when you enter the app. So what's going on is I click the update button, which is at the top right, and you'll notice it starts spinning. I can then go and do stuff. Now down at the bottom it's listing what it's doing, but I can go into the time card, or the diary, make changes here, and then come back out. I don't need to send it. And the update continues to go in the background while it's doing that. The only thing that you will not be able to do is click the change job. So I'm going to hit that again for update. you'll notice that change job is grayed out. The reason that's grayed out is part of the update is that we download new job setups, cost codes, employees, equipment for whatever job you're in addition to all the library data. And if you were to change the job during the update, we could really hose the data. So we've just disabled that change job button during the update. Now, we previously had a setting, and the setting is still there. So I'm going to go and show it right now. Preferences, data updating. By default, that is set to automatically update my data every 4 hours. What many companies did is they had their foreman set this to never perform automatic updates. Now, what that did was it bugged the foreman every 24 hours if they hadn't updated, but then the foreman could ignore it if he needed to go about and get his work done. We think that the background updating has fixed that particular issue. So with this release, what we've actually done is reset all of those data updates back to every 4 hours. Now, the foreman can still come in here and set it to never perform, but that never perform was for the purpose of getting around the spinning wheel when the foreman actually had to do some work. And since that no longer exists, we reset everybody back to that 4-hour updates, because the more often they get those data updates, the less calls into the office they're going to be when they're saying, hey, where's that cost code? I thought you were adding it in there, and it hasn't arrived on the device. So that's why we did that. It's just an FYI so that y'all are aware of that. It's also in the release notes for this release that will pop up for the foreman and for you the first time you download it. Alrighty. So we're going to jump into Production Planner. Next big thing we did. Clicking on it. First time you enter it, we wanted to make this as easy as possible for the foreman, simplify what they're planning, whether they're planning for tomorrow or they're planning for next week or the next 2 weeks. So when you enter the production plan for today, for this job, you have a couple of options. If the plan already exists, it opens up on the plan. However, if it doesn't exist, there's some pretty basic options. And if we like this quick start menu on Production Planner, if y'all tell us that this is a good thing, then we're going to try moving this to the Timecard as well. Because in theory, there are only a couple basic things that you can do when you enter Timecard or enter Production Plan, and there's nothing there. I can either start from scratch, I can go fill from a Timecard and populate my production plan, I can change my date so I'm planning for tomorrow instead, or I can copy a previous plan. So we want to make that pretty obvious. Foreman, choose one of these. In my case, I'm just going to hit start from scratch real quick. I'm going to come in here. Very similar to the time card, we did want to make it as easy as possible. They're planning what they're doing tomorrow, planning for next week. They're going to be putting in hours and quantities. It should be fairly similar to the time card because we've pretty much optimized how the time card works for the foreman, and we wouldn't want them to have to learn something new. There are going to be some changes. For instance, the background should be pretty obvious that that's not the time card. We go ahead and add cost codes in. And let's hope I choose some cost codes with some good stuff. I'm going to go back and delete off a cost code that had weeks on it because that would obviously not be a good cost code to plan for. RCP, always good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and add my crew. Now you'll notice I can add specific employees, or I can add by pay class into the system. I can add by equipment group or by specific pieces of equipment. It all depends on what you'd like. We go back in here to employees. I'm just going to choose a couple things here and choose a couple of pieces of equipment just for fun. If you've turned on the job review preference that requires linking of equipment to employees, then it's going to pop that up for you right here. So I'm going to go to, shoot, doesn't matter to me. All right, and this one will attach to a laborer. He's getting a pay bump today. All right. You'll notice on this that equipment shows up blue instead of yellow. Once again, a difference that we're trying to make with the time card. Just give them an obvious difference that this is not the time card. You're in Production Planner. Don't expect other things to be happening on there. Also, you'll notice, and this was a concern previously, is that we made the time card so large that you really weren't able to fit a large amount of the crew. we now have pinch to zoom on both the time card and production planner, so you can make this small, or you can make it that big, and I am just pinching to zoom there. For production planner, and we'll add this on later on for the time card as well, if you go to options, you can actually drag that as well in case the foreman doesn't know to pinch to zoom. He can do that. Alrighty. So we're going to select, select everything here. Put in some hours. Put in a quantity, 100 square yards. Good, we were way off track. Let me try and get this in the ballpark here. We'll go 8,000. Nope. 8,000. Perfect. All right. And then for this one, we'll do 10. Perfect. All right. So keep this fairly easy for us. 2 cost codes. I have my hours. I have my quantities. At the top, it will check off if you're good for the day for that cost code. So you notice my furnish and install 30-inch RCP. I'm good. It checked it off. So what we want to train the foreman to look for is checks across the top of the plan means they're good to go. If there's a warning side, it means they got to check into that. So let's go take a look at that warning. So I'm going to click on the cost code, and now it's going to show me some options. Now, in theory, if I'm off track, I can do one of 2 things. I either got to increase output or decrease input. Pretty basic stuff. So we actually do the math for the foreman. Now, they can come in here themselves and make the changes if they'd like. However, these are button options for them, and in the next release, 4.1 that comes out, we're going to make them pretty obvious that they're buttons. For right now, just know that these are buttons. We're going to put squares around them just to make it really obvious. But those are buttons, so I can actually hit the increased production in 9,600 square yards. It automatically changes it there, does all the calculations, and let the foreman knows that they're good to go. On the other hand, go back to 8,000. All right. I can also decrease crew hours or employee hours. So what the decrease crew hours option does is it basically says, because we're analyzing by units per hour, we need to decrease that by about 17%. And it's not going to do that out to 8 decimals. It's going to do it out to 1 or 2 decimals. So you're fine there. And it's going to take that across the line, across all employees and equipment. It only uses the labor hours, because units per hour is a labor hours calculation, to determine what percentage. However, because equipment is run by the laborer, it's also going to decrease the equipment hours based on whatever percentage was used there. So in this case, if I click that, you'll notice it decreased everything by 40 minutes, 2/3 of an hour. And now we have greens across the board. Let's go back and reset this. Click here. The other option is manually removing those 2.5 employee hours, 2.5 labor hours that are off. If I click there, it actually brings up all the laborers on the time card, all the employees on the time card, and lets me pick. Well, let's be honest, I don't know what I was thinking with the surveyor. I'm just not going to knock them down. I don't actually need them for 4 hours for that task. You're able to reduce your hours, and it shows up there as green and good to go. The fourth option, of course, is you can manually change the hours and quantities yourself. And that's just, the foreman's got to go in there and say, all right, what works for me now? In that case, I click there. It says, all right, what do you want to change? And you can start coming in here and saying, we'll knock that down to 1, and I'm good to go. So that is how Production Planner works. There's a lot more options in here, so you can check it out. You can analyze by shift. You can analyze by different types of production rates. You can add notes to the plan. You can add notes to the cost code, a variety of different things. But this is, at its core, how Production Planner works. Now, the other cool thing is here, I can create a time card from here. Now, if I click Send, I'm going to send that production plan. Production plan sent. My Send button has now turned into create time card. So if I hit create time card, I actually already had a time card, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that time card for the purposes of our demonstration. Go back into Production Planner, checked off because I've already sent it. Now I want to create a time card from it. Uh-oh, I can't have generic resources on the time card. It's actually going to walk me through subbing out those generic resources that I had added into there. So I can manually click on a laborer, and it will pull up all of the laborers in my job, or all of them, not just the laborers, in there. And I can say, okay, I want Graham to be that guy. I can do that manually, or I can hit guide me, and it'll walk me through each one individually. See, so we'll go Brent, we'll go with Radek, we'll go with Steve, and now I can create the time card. It opens up the time card for me, plugs in quantities, plugs in hours for the date that I had, and I'm good to go. That is production plan. I'm going to get back into the heavy job stuff in a second, but there was a fairly nice safety item that went into this release, and so Gabe's going to show it. What happens when you...
Okay, we're going to sidestep here just a second, take a look at the phone inspections on an iPhone that we added with this 4.0 release. Currently we have inspections available on the iPad and Android devices, and we're now introducing it onto your iPhones. It lives within the HCSS Field app as well. I'll just go ahead and tap into the inspections module here, and I'll select my airport job. I'm going to let this refresh for a little bit. Well, you'll see a different design that we have for the phone inspection to account for the screen real estate. We have 3 tabs at the top. There'll be our main navigation tab for our in-progress inspections, a tab for follow-ups, and a tab for any history of sent inspections as well. If I go into my in-progress section here, if you didn't see the button that I just tapped there in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a circle with a plus icon. That's how I start a new inspection on the phone. I will select the confined space safety inspection checklist. A few points here at the very top box shows me the job that I'm currently in. The recorder or operator, if this was an equipment inspection, will be in the box right below that. We have a progress chart showing us on the right, and then all the categories of my inspection listed down there. To jump into any of those categories, I simply tap into it. It'll show me all of my inspection items. I can then select them as I work through if they pass the inspection. If I do find an issue reported with it, I'll simply click the red issue reported button. That'll allow me to drill into that item a little bit, enter in any comments, any photos, as well as follow up on that item should I choose to. And then I'll just continue to work down my items. When I back out of here, I'm back into my table of contents view, if you will. I'll see my progress has increased to around 6%. This is just based on the number of items that I have. And I can mark 5 out of 5 for the general requirements category, and I just started my permit required category. That'll allow on these longer inspections you to jump back and forth and not have to start from the very beginning of the list and scroll all the way down. Once that's sent, I will see it in my history screen, and then any remaining follow-up items will appear on the follow-ups tab right in the middle with an indicator telling me how many I have open. Once those have been sent, similar to the iPad, I have a little count on my dashboard showing me that I have sent 1 inspection for today, and I have 3 unsent inspections. So I'm going to step off here, give it back to Adam, we'll head back to Heavy Job.
We all know just how important it is for safety inspections to make it from the field into the office every time the foreman hits send. Let's go to the time card. I'm on the time card. Shoot, my 420 DCAT broke down. I click on it, I hit request maintenance, pops up, I type it in, I talk it in. Running out of voice right now. Puts it in there, perfect. I take a picture. Y'all know how that works. And I hit the send button. Done. That automatically flows into Equipment 360 if you have Equipment 360. If you don't have Equipment 360, then you will not have access to maintenance requests and credentials to turn it on for your foreman. In that case, we highly recommend contacting your salesperson about Equipment 360. Other things on the time card. If I want to click on Redec, or actually, I'm looking at here at Graham, and I want to say, well, shoot, Graham, he's a laborer, he's driving a cat. How's he doing that? Does he have the correct certifications for that? So I can click on Graham there. And you notice in the employee slide out, we now have a button that says View Employee Skills. If I open that, it automatically opens up the Skills module and shows you all the skills and certs that were associated with Graham. So I'm looking, he has asbestos training, and it's green, that's good to go. Shoot, his CDL expires today. That just happy coincidence. And he's got another skill expiring this week. I do not see dozer operator, which is what I require, and so I need to pull him off of that particular piece of equipment right now. I can hit back, and it goes straight back to the time card. So nice little easy addition that we were able to add in there is request maintenance and skills directly from the time card. Another thing we added in here was pay adjustments. Now this is only going to work if you've already updated to HeavyJob 2016. So what you can do is you can click on one of your guys, and what pay adjustments are, and we could probably spend an entire hour on pay adjustments, but pay adjustments are basically per diem and subsistence on steroids. It allows you a lot more customization and options with those. Basically, you set them up in the manager's system as an hourly or a daily rate, and then when you add them to an employee, for instance, if it's an hourly thing, an extra 75 cents an hour for rig pay, boot pay, hazard pay. Then for every hour they have on the time card, for in X case 8, we're going to tack on an extra 75 cents, or however much you set it up for. Or you can set it up as a separate per diem type of thing on a daily, and that just means that we apply an extra 20 bucks, 25 bucks, 80 bucks, whatever. This is good for location pay. You got 3 different zones that the guys get per diem for. It's a hassle for you to have to manage that, but if the foreman knows what the guy should be getting, then he's able to come in here, hit the edit button there. I'm giving this guy travel pay and lead pay today. It shows up right there, and that will be sent into the manager system and onto the accounting system. So if you're using pay adjustments currently in the system, in the manager system, now you have them in mobile as well. Let's take a look at what else we got. I'm actually going to take a look at what else we got. Okay, back to time card. Sorry, we made some additions to the signatures module, which I will show you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a schedule for Redec. Yada, yada, yada. 11 hours. We'll give him a break. He did not get a second break. Working 11 hours. Probably should. Hit done there. I go to sign hours. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So for Mr. Bonk, on a daily basis, the schedules are now included for the signature. Now we have schedules on there so the employee can confirm that their schedule is correct. Signature works the same way. Done. Done. Oh, I didn't answer my questions. I left the job uninjured. I attended a safety meeting. I'm good to go. If I don't happen to have a schedule on there, it just doesn't show. The weekly hours are slightly different. It shows up like this. Nicer looking format than previous, but you don't get the schedules for a week. Okie doke. That was signatures. Nice new look there. For those that have complained in the past about our signatures reporting, that nice new look that we gave you was a requirement to improve the signatures reporting. So now that we've actually redone how we're sending signatures up from the mobile device, which is now finally out in 4.0, we will be releasing in the next 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, some new reporting on our HeavyJob website that will allow you to search and sort by the answers to the questions. Let's look at the time card review real quick. This needed a workflow change. Previously, we had a download data button up at the top right, and then we had separate filters on the left side, and we had basically jobs, form, and dates in both of those. However, if they got out of sync, it really looked like you had no time cards, even though you did. go ahead and import the time cards in here. We're going to let that go for a second. But bottom line is, there we go. Cool. We have one set of filters for the supers, the manager users to go through, and so it's a lot easier for them to understand. We've also made this look a lot nicer. It wasn't the best look for us. It was not. But now I can go previous time card, next time cards. I can spin through there. If I want to approve a time card, I can go here. I hit the approve button. This is what approved and reject look like right now. But they're able to spin through here. You'll notice they're also actually able to approve a multi-job time card direct from the time card review on the mobile app, which is a new addition for 4.0. Needs requests. Needs request is not yet available in credentials to turn on. It is in the app. However, and I got access to everything, you'll notice that it's not there to show. The reason for that is you can't access it until you have updated your dispatcher system to Dispatcher 2017. And why haven't you updated, you may ask? It's because it's not out yet. We're hoping for mid-March. We will work on getting that out as soon as we can, but needs request coming soon. There should be a Dispatcher What's New webinar that will be able to show you the new stuff in the Dispatcher desktop program. It's also going to cover needs requests. So let's go to HeavyJob 1. Okay. So, in the past, we've had basically questions from our customers is, what do I do about the truck driver? What do I do about the surveyor? They're a one-man crew, basically. They fill out their own time cards, so they need to be able to put in their stuff for the time card. However, I don't want to pay $1,500 for a license for them. We have a new option for you. 4 single-person crews, which are one guy that fills out his own time card. Right now it's probably happening by paper. You are able to go to credentials. You go to credentials, and we're going to confirm that HeavyJob 1 is listed there. If not, we're going to have credentials flip a switch today to make sure it's listed there as well. So what happens is when HeavyJob 1 is checked off, so that is a new credentials option. So previously for your groups, in terms of HeavyJob, you had HeavyJob Field, you had HeavyJob Manager Mobile. Now we're adding a third option called HeavyJob 1. So HeavyJob 1 is for single-person crews. It is for one employee on a time card, okay? Everything else is the same. So with HeavyJob 1, you turn on that subscription, so now you're paying. It's a reduced rate from the HeavyJob Field subscription. You're turning that on, so instead of having to buy the license and then pay an extra $12.50 a month, now you're just paying $12.50 a month. So for that, you get the time card. And on that time card, and I obviously don't have it turned on because I can put an entire crew on there. When I come here to my Add Crew screen, it's only going to show one employee there. It's only going to show the guy that's turned on for HeavyJob 1 in credentials. So you map a HeavyJob employee code to a user in credentials. That's the HeavyJob employee code that's going to show up on this Add Crew screen. You got one employee there that you can add to the time card. Here in the employee list, you will only see, the user will only see themselves in the list. For equipment, they'll get the full list. For employees, they get one guy. Fairly basic. That is the only change we made to the time card. Everything else functions the same. This is true for the iPad and the iPhone. The other changes for HeavyJob 1. No production planner, no job analysis. Everything else HeavyJob related you get. You can do maintenance requests, you can do diaries, you can do photos, you can do forms. We made 3 changes between HeavyJob Field License and a HeavyJob 1 subscription. Time card only gets one person on it, no job analysis, no production planner. That is HeavyJob 1.